So let's start with the file organization. This is an already existing project that I've been working on. This is the same airport that we're going to work on today. And in here we have three different things. The XML file is the project file. This is the one that we're going to load when we save it. And we also will have to create a folder called package sources. And in there we will have to create another one which we will just call data. And in here all of the files will be saved that will include your data that you've edited. Also the flatterns, so there's all the shape files and XML files. And in the XML file you can see stuff like this. So it will just tell you where all your taxiways are, the account code, all of the locations of everything you've placed and edited. All of this will be automatically created, so you also don't have to worry about this. The other folder you will have in your project folder will be the package definitions folder. In there you will have an XML file that basically tells you how many and what asset groups you've added in your project. So for example, for this airport we need a PGL, and we will have an asset directory. You don't have to worry about this for now, as we will be doing that in the project editor in the sim. So that's what we're going to be doing now. Alright, so here I'm at the loaded airport. Up here you can see this bar. You can find this when turning on the developer mode in the settings. So on dev mode you will go into new project, and here you can choose the path of your new project. So I'm just gonna create a new folder that I will call Delta Papa 1. Very simple and basic. Then as my project name I will call this Echo Delta Oscar Papa sudo, and the output directory is OK. Once you've clicked OK, you will see this. You will see the inspector and the project editor that will have the name already in the XML format. So down here you will find this button, and here you will add a new package. The type's going to be a BGL. This is just what I've showed you in the package definitions. And the package name, let's call this Echo Delta Oscar Papa. Then you click create again, and here you are. You can add some descriptions to what your package is about. So this is going to be a scenery, so that's why I choose scenery. And then you can put in some optional names in here and stuff, but I don't do that now because it's not necessary for this tutorial. Right, then in here you go to edit, asset directory. We're going to go here, we're going to create the new folder, package sources, and in there, as I've showed you before, I'm going to create another one called data and select folder. And this should be scenery, and that's pretty much it. Then you can click on load in editor. Yeah, and this sometimes happens. As you can see, the scenery has changed, so something already has happened. And you can slip along using the normal keyboard buttons using W, A, S, and D. And with the numpad keys you can rotate your camera. So the material editor is something we don't need at this point. We can see here that we have the inspector and objects. The objects window might be a separate one for you. Right, so in here you go on polygon, And the first thing we will do now is creating a flatten, and that's why we chose the polygon. We're going to click on add, and then we have this little cross here, the red cross, and we're just going to get this along the airfield. So if you want to put a vector point in here, you're gonna hold Control key, left mouse, at least that's what it should be like, yep. And then you can let it go. And then if you want to go to the next one, you can do the same again until you've reached the other side. So once you're done, you can press enter, and then you will see this will be your preview. And then on here, if you click on the polygon and do right click and properties, another window will come up, and you want to go for exclude all, so all of the objects that are on the airport should be gone now. Yep, so you can see here when I click this, all of it will be gone. Then we can do the same for vegetation, and that's normal. So if you go here, you'll see the vegetation density, and you just put that down all the way, and the vegetation will be gone. You can also do terraforming, which is necessary because you can see very slopey, and this is way too much. So terraforming, it will try to do a flatten. As you can see, this is very flat now. You can do sloped runways later on. Right, so once you're done, you can close the properties window. And that's it already for the flatten. Alright, next day, let's continue with adding an airport and deleting everything that's default on the airport, including runways and taxiways and everything there is on an airport that's default. So in the objects window, we will go into airport and click on add. There should be something here now. Here it is. If you enable one-click placing, it will show this. And you should try to position this in the middle of the airport. At least try to. And here we'll see this red font, and you go to right-click, properties. And in here you will see the ICAO region names and everything. The ICAO code is important, so it actually knows what airport you're working on. So in this case it's Echo Delta Oscar Papa. Make sure you press enter, because it may happen that your sim crashes if you don't. Region name, that's all optional. Airport name, just gonna call this the city that's around it. And in here, when you go to delete, you can delete all the approaches. That's all optional again. So I'm gonna delete the aprons, helipads, runways, starts, taxiways. Not necessary to delete the blast fence in my opinion. Jetways, taxiway signs, ILS, you could. Right, you don't need to apply a flatten because you've already done that on your polygon. And not merging, that's not really necessary to do. And once you're done with that, you can close that. That's it. Also, whenever you want to save your progress, you can click this save scenery, and very important to save it in the data folder, in the package sources folder, and you can call it however you want. This is going to be the shape file. This is going to be the files for the flattern. So I'm just gonna call this shape, and then there's going to be another one, and I'm gonna call this airport. This is going to be a scenery file. Then you save it. You can save that again. And now everything you did is saved. Then to add new objects, such as runways or taxiways, you simply go on the objects window again and choose the runway, which is here. Then you can choose which runway number you will have. One-click placing. You can try to aim for the middle of the runway again, which is here in this airport. And then you untick this. May happen that multiple ones will be placed, but just delete the one that you don't want, hitting the delete button. Right, so here we have it. If you go to view and enable the gizmo, it will allow you to rotate it and scale it. So you can try to align it. We can do some fine adjustments later using the properties of the runway. And that's it for now. If you can go to the properties of the runway, you will see all of these configurations. So the heading can be adjusted later. The length of this runway is about 3,000 meters, and the width is, no, that's way too much. Then to relocate it, just use this drag thing. And then you can adjust your heading until you're happy with the result. Right, so once you've adjusted all your headings and scales of the runway, you can then go on with texturing the runway using the default textures, or you could even use custom textures. But I'm not going to cover that today on how to load in custom textures. I'm just going to use the default ones, but you will get the idea of how to change it. Right, so again, we select the runway and go to properties. And in here we have materials. And here is the material editor. And in here we can load different textures that we like. So I'm going to use the Asobo concrete one. This one. Yeah, I think it was this one. That was good fit. And once you've selected it there, you can then add a material here. And you will see those tiles. That's just the UV wrapping of the runway. And then if you then click this again, it will load the texture that you've selected in the material editor. And in here you can also change the scale of it, and the U and the V. I'm just gonna change it to this. 1.5 seems to be good for this runway. As you can see, we also have some ground merging. You have different types of those textures or materials that are on the runway. So you have the base tiled, you have that and the tire marks and the borders and center and much more. We're gonna add another material, and that's gonna be the border material. So we'll automatically choose the same texture that you've selected in there. You can now look for another texture. Taxi asphalt looks good because I want it to be asphalt in the borders. And then you can apply it here. Now you want to adjust the actual border, so we have to play around with this again. So once you've adjusted your width, this will be your result. And we're done with this. And again, there's multiple types that you just can play around with, but you'll get the idea. Then again, I also choose ground merging here, because it just looks better. Right, next one is markings. We can turn on these threshold markings and much more. We can also adjust the position of them so that it will merge the lines under it. You can also turn on the center line, obviously, touchdown markings, and the fixed distance markings. There's edge markings. I don't know how to adjust the position of them yet, but I'm pretty sure there is a way of how to do it in the properties. And last but not least, you can adjust the runway start positions. As you can see here, we have this green arrow, and I'm just going to drag it to the primary end. So that is, I'm going to do the same for the other one. So you also click on edit position. You want to disable for the other one so you don't move both at the same time. There it is, and then again disable this, and you got your first runway done. That's it. That's everything you need for the runway. How do I create taxiways? Also very simple, as you just have to go to your objects window again and choose taxiway points. You're gonna again use the one-click placing method. You can start adding some using the left mouse button, and you will already see that some of this has been placed as a path, but I will come back to this later. So I would just keep coming around, and then once I've finished, I will come back. Alright, so I'm done now. I'm gonna disable the one-click placing again. There may be some odd things that will be placed when you disable it, so just make sure we delete them. In the scenery editor, you've got loads of taxiway points now. So it's just, you can probably delete this one as well. Actually not, okay. Right, okay. So further down in the scenery editor, you have another one called taxiway path, and you can already see the path that it has automatically created for us. And for each one, you will again have to adjust your properties. So you again customize your material to it. You can enable, disable, draw surface, ground merging, just the same for as for the runway. You can do enable a center line that can have lights and just some edge lines with lights and the width, and that's very basic and simple to be honest. So I will show you one example with one taxiway. Let's choose the big one. We're just gonna adjust the material. I'm gonna choose an asphalt material, and that should be changed now. And we can enable a center line that's gonna be lighted. And as a width, I'm going for 50, which seems to be too much. So I'm just gonna go for 48 or 47 even, until I like it. As you can see, we have got a taxi line. So what do you do when you have such cross sections? You basically have a middle point where everything meets up in the same position, and then where the lines come to one point in one line, and that's where you're going to place another point. So I'm going to show you now how I would connect these to make this an actual working cross-section. So you can already see that both of these text lines have been placed here, so that's already working with their own center lines, which is working now, as you can see here. So what I do is I add some more of these taxiway points along the line. But I don't actually fully connect them. And I will show you why. So what I do is I first set them up in the taxiway path section. So this is gonna be a material as the other ones are. Right, and so you already have a taxi line, and in this case it already has worked here. So if you select this point, gonna go to the correct mode. You can see when I get close to it, it will automatically recognize that something is connected to it. You can play around with that a little too. So same for this one, just drag it to the other point and then you will see that it's working. And also you can adjust them as you like, because this doesn't look perfect yet, but you get the idea. In order to fix things, so if you got some stuff that hasn't been covered in here, you can use the apron mode in order to fix this. Same for here, and that's what we'll be covering next. So if you like to create an apron, which is especially used for these things, for these areas, so again, you click on the objects window on apron. I'm gonna make a default one, click on add, and then one click placing, and then you just get close to it. Hit control again, just like you would create the flattern. Same system. And this is going to be a concrete material. So I'll be back when this is done. Then once you're done, you can just press enter again, and you will see this. And you disable the one click feature, scroll down and delete the other one that somehow got there. And to adjust it, you once again go to the properties, and this is going to be a different material, which I'm just gonna pick. So this seems alright, and down here we can change the tiling. So if we either want them to be bigger or smaller. So in this case it's gonna be a lot bigger. This seems to be right. Then the texture rotation, I'm gonna try to align it to the taxiway, just like in real life, and the priority as where we can change it, where we can change the layer. And if we enable this, we get the effect that we wanted. So with that, you can cover runways and taxiways. And don't worry about all the flickering, that will disappear when you build the package. So that's pretty much it. There's not much more to it. And on there you can obviously add some more taxiway parkings. I'm just gonna go for a ramp GA. Very simple again. You can adjust loads of things here, even with parking and ground power unit and spots and loads of other things, which I'm not gonna cover in this video. So that's pretty much everything there is on the ground. You can obviously also add a scenery building, which can also be custom, same as for the apron, obviously. So you can use your own custom texture for that as well, using the material editor. So in here we just can type in building. This one, for example, seems to be good, so we can just place it here, disable this, delete the other one that has been created using the Gizmo tool. There it is. We can rotate it to our preference. It can be near this. And that's pretty much it. To compile your work to a complete package, it's only a few steps you need to do. You want to make sure that you have saved your scenery here with all your work, very important. In the spectator, actually in the project editor, you go to top here, the package name, that's what it's going to be called. The content types a scenery, just to double check this. And then if you go to your BGL again, you want to make sure that your asset directory is set to package sources and data, and the output directory can be at scenery. So if you go back here, the only button you need to click now is build package. So that's all. This is going to automatically open the console, which you can close now. Now we're going to have a look at the build package. As you can see, there is a new folder here called packages, and in here you find the ready package. So the scenery, there's our flatten, and there's everything else we did. So the only thing you need to do now is copy this folder, and you want to add this to your community folder in the main flatten folder. That's it. Now you can save your project. It has already been saved because I've just clicked this. Nothing has been changed in this section or this section, so you can just close that down. The project is saved and compiled. This is still using the default scenery, and now we just have to restart the simulator, and then we check out the result. So sim is started now, and as you can see, both of the start positions are working, and both of the parking positions are working. So I'm just going to spawn at one of the parking locations, going to set this at my departure. Alright, so as you can see, everything has worked. So the apron is here, the parking position is working, the layers are working, the taxi lines are working, the lights are working, the runway is working, everything is working. If you want to see more, please leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next video.